Hey there, it's Mark from Buy Sourcing Academy, and I wanted to do something slightly different here. There's a lot of content that goes out online with regards to the positives that come with the rent-to-rent strategy. Things like cash flow, things like low to no startup capital required. But the reality is that there are going to be challenges in running your rent-to-rent agency business. So what I want to do in this video is highlight maybe 5 of the challenges that you might face when growing your rent-to-rent agency, but also maybe the solutions to those challenges so that you don't need to encounter them if you don't have to. So number 1 is all about ensuring systems are in place for your ongoing portfolio management. Now, the fact is that as you grow your rent-to-rent agency business, you're going to have more tenants to manage, you're going to have more properties to manage, you're going to have multiple refurbishments potentially to be looking after. And if you do not have systems in place, the juggling act that is that process is going to become an absolute nightmare. So what you need to ensure that you are doing is you need to ensure you are setting those systems and processes up from the very beginning. You need to treat your rent-to-rent agency business exactly like it says on the tin, an agency business. Because if you have that attitude, that mindset, that desire to set the business up properly from the very beginning, yes, you might be doing a lot of it on your own from the beginning, but actually as you progress, those systems and processes that you put in place are going to massively help you manage multiple units, which of course you are going to want if you want to get to that cash flow figure no doubt you are trying to achieve. Now, number 2 is the fact that you are going to need to learn how to manage deal flow whilst also managing pipeline, and then in the same breath you're going to be managing existing portfolio. So the fact is that whilst you're generating your new leads, you're going to have to manage the leads that are already in your pipeline, and whilst you're doing both of those, which is chaos enough potentially, you're going to be having to manage the units that you've already got under your management. So again, the fact is you're going to have to learn how to run multiple parts of the process all at the same time, because ultimately you're going to have refurbishment contractors doing works, you're going to have cleaners going into properties that are in your existing portfolio while still managing your direct mail campaigns, your lead generation campaigns, your pay-per-click, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to have to look after them as well. Now, of course, you're going to get to the point where you want to expand your team and start bringing on virtual staff members, physical staff members, whatever it might be. But when you start off, you're going to be on your own very likely, or maybe with a business partner. So learning how to juggle those 3 parts of the process is going to mean that you grow your business in an organized fashion, because all it takes is for you to drop the ball on one of those 3 layers, and that means that you're going to potentially have issues that you could have avoided in the first place simply by being aware of the differences in the process itself. And of course, point number 1 that we've just covered, if you've got the right systems and processes in place, then of course you are going to be able to manage that anyway. But if you don't, then beware, there will be issues that you have to unravel as you move further along the process. Now, another big challenge, of course, is the communication that you have with all the various parties to this type of arrangement. In rent-to-rent, as with any property investment, you are going to have to be able to manage tenants, you're going to have to be able to manage homeowners, contractors, you're going to have cleaners, you're going to have all sorts of things going on at the same time. And remember, communication is absolutely key to the success of any property business. More often than not, from my agency days, the biggest bugbear of landlords, property owners, was the lack of communication, or what they felt was the lack of communication throughout the process. Now, just because we're on rent to rent, and just because we've taken that property off the landlord on a guaranteed rent basis, we have to remember that the property is still their property. They still have a right to know what is going on with their asset, with their very big cost base that they're having to pay out on a monthly basis. They're going to want to know that it is being looked after. So ensuring that you set up a communication process with that property owner, the frequency of which you will agree in the beginning. So it might be monthly, it might be quarterly, it might be every 6 months. They might just simply agree not to be communicated with during the contract. But the fact is that if you ensure that there is clarity on what that will be from the beginning, then you're highly likely to avoid problems further down the line. Exactly the same concept with tenants, contractors, refurbishments. If you keep on top of it, you ensure communication is open, then you are going to avoid any challenges in the future. Now, if you're doing your lead generation correctly and you start to gather the momentum of previous campaigns on top of current campaigns, you'll start to see more leads coming in more quickly. Now, what that means, of course, the more leads that come in, the more quickly they come in, the more quickly you are going to have to manage those leads, negotiate with those leads, analyze them. Great problem to have, but of course, again, if you drop the ball while all those leads are coming in, you're going to be leaving money on the table. You're going to lose leads because ultimately there will be someone else coming along very quickly after your marketing campaign who is going to snap those up from under your feet, and you are going to lose that potential rent-to-rent cash flow opportunity. So really important to learn how to manage multiple deals all at the same time, because that process is going to be really important to get those offers out quickly, chase those offers, get deals agreed, and stick those deals into the pipeline. But of course, with multiple deals coming into the pipeline in quick succession, that also means that we have got the potential now to manage multiple contractors at multiple refurbishment projects. So you will become a hugely impressive multitasker when you build your rent-to-rent portfolio quickly. Like I say, with all of these, they're great problems to have, but I will tell you now, if you get it wrong, they become increasingly difficult problems to manage, because it just becomes a web of challenges that you're going to have to unravel in order to get landlords back on side, contractors back on side, and of course getting tenants into those properties. So really make sure that you have got these systems and processes like I talked about in number 1, to ensure that by handling these multiple deals in quick succession, you're not going to leave any of those out, you're not going to drop the ball with any of those, and you're going to capitalize on building that portfolio more quickly. Now, another challenge stroke question that you're going to be faced with when it comes to managing your rent-to-rent portfolio and growing your rent-to-rent agency is, are you going to outsource your property management to another specialist agency, which is perfectly doable as a rent-to-rent strategy, or are you going to manage those properties in-house? Now, of course, by managing the properties in-house, you're going to remove the added cost, the added expenditure of a managing agent, but you're going to have to take that responsibility on of understanding the legal aspects, of being able to deal with licensing if it's applicable, of being able to deal with tenants, phone calls, emergency out of hours. All of that stuff you are going to have to deal with yourself, or someone in your team is going to have to deal with. Now, if you've got the ability to build a team quickly, then I absolutely recommend doing that. But most people that get started with the rent-to-rent strategy, it will take a few deals into your portfolio before you can physically afford to bring someone on. So you're going to need to consider whether you want to bring on an agent to work with you and sacrifice a percentage of that income to them in order to deal with all of that, or are you going to take that headache, hassle, time on yourself in order to maximize the profits, but of course be more involved with the day-to-day running of the business? The choice is yours. As with all other aspects of the rent-to-rent strategy, the big benefit is that it's all about choices, it's all about doing what you want to do, but the fact is that these are definitely challenges that you are going to face. They're challenges that you need to consider, and there's certainly things that you're going to need to bear in mind as you start and grow your rent-to-rent agency business.